So as we head into November, we get a nice little boost on the racing front. We have the Breeders' Cup, the Melbourne Cup, and that coincides to produce a really good opportunity if you're prepared to either stay up late or get up early. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. So as we head into the early part of November, into the very early part of November I should say, we get a coincidence of racing where in the US we have the Breeders' Cup and in Australia we have the Melbourne Cup, and both of them are very big high profile events. But if you're in the UK, they can be a little bit stressful to trade because they're at either end of the day. It can create a bit of a problem. So first of all, let's have a quick look at the Breeders' Cup. The Breeders' Cup, as I mentioned in a video last year, is held in the US. It's about the only sort of US race that I really trade seriously. I have done a bit of work on US racing this year, more than I have done in previous years, so I'm beginning to piece together a few of those puzzles. But typically most of the day-to-day stuff is a bit random. There isn't a great deal going on there. But the Breeders' Cup does present you with an opportunity. It's run on a Friday and a Saturday, and last year and this year it's on the West Coast. It's in California. It was at Santa Anita for the last couple of years, and I have visited Santa Anita, as I highlighted in the video last year. I actually managed to sneak into Santa Anita, I think it was a couple of years ago, it may be 3 years ago, when they were preparing for the Breeders' Cup, and I basically totally blagged my way in to Santa Anita and got full access to the entire grounds, which was absolutely hilarious. But remarkably, I've also been to Del Mar. This year, Santa Anita is just on the bottom of the San Gabriel Mountains in Los Angeles, and this year it's moving down Interstate 5 to Del Mar, where I have also been. And the reason for turning up at Del Mar, I didn't go to the Breeders' Cup there, but I was in San Diego, and if you go up from San Diego you get to La Jolla, which is where Ben Graham used to live. For anybody that is into Buffett, you'll know who Ben Graham is. So I did a pilgrimage to La Jolla. But also, if you go a little bit further north from La Jolla, you get to Del Mar and that area around there. Funny enough, there's a place called Cardiff by Sea. And just out of curiosity, I had to go and visit Cardiff by Sea because I just thought that would be funny. But anyway, Del Mar Racecourse is right there. And the interesting thing about Del Mar, it's sort of in a valley, and there's a river that runs out into the Pacific Ocean. But it's very, very close to the beach. So they nickname it where the surf meets the turf. That's what they say about Del Mar. And it is actually a beautiful part of the world. If you are ever around there, it's worth going to visit because there are loads of things on Interstate 5 that you can go and visit and have a look at and stuff like that. And if you're into racing, it's worth popping in to have a look at Del Mar while you're there, because it is one of those sort of iconic race courses, as is Santa Anita and a few other places. So yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world. When I was exploring all around San Diego, you can basically snake up the coast and go past Mission Beach and head up into Del Mar from there, or you just go down Interstate 5, which is a bit boring but a lot quicker obviously, and you'll find Del Mar just north of San Diego, south of Carlsbad. And when I was there, I stopped at a restaurant that sort of overlooks Del Mar, thinking I may be able to get a great shot of the racecourse. Had a fish taco or something there, and I didn't really capture the flavour of Del Mar. So here's my picture that I took of Del Mar Racecourse from the restaurant that overlooks it. Nice restaurant, but a terrible picture of Del Mar Racecourse. But probably some of the official photos do it better justice, and you can see how close it is to the beach. So it's a really interesting venue. I imagine it would be pretty busy there on Breeders' Cup Day because the traffic around there isn't great anyhow, and there are quite minor roads leading in and around the racecourse. So I imagine it'd be a bit of a squeeze on race day. But it's an interesting course. It's a beautiful course, and obviously the surrounding area and the climate and so on is wonderful as well. So it would be nice to go there on a race day one year, but it won't be this particular year. So I didn't get a great shot of Del Mar Racecourse, but I did get a great shot of a rattlesnake. When I went to visit Del Mar Racecourse, I also went to visit Torrey Pines, where they played the US Open Golf a few years ago. So I wanted to have a wander around there, and there is actually a nature reserve where you can walk around the Torrey Pines area and then down onto the beach, and you get a beautiful view of the coastline. But when I was doing that, I came across my first ever rattlesnake. So yeah, I didn't get a great picture of Del Mar Racecourse, but got a great picture of a rattlesnake. Anyhow, putting all of that to one side, the Breeders' Cup itself will take place on Friday and Saturday, and it will start late in the evening and go into the early hours of the morning. I haven't checked the schedule this year, but that's typically what happens when it's on the West Coast, because the Breeders' Cup does move around a bit. And obviously if it's on the East Coast, there'll be 4 hours difference. So when it's on the West Coast, it tends to be a little bit later, and that will run into the early hours of the morning. Now, the Friday meeting I've never done fantastically well on. It's never been that amazing. But the Breeders' Cup itself, I have managed to pull out some great results in the past. So I will be doing the Breeders' Cup, which takes place on the Saturday. And typically the routine for that would be go out, see some fireworks, come back, do the Breeders' Cup. That's how it sort of works on a Saturday. But this Saturday, we also have the Oaks, which is the first day of the Melbourne Cup meeting at Flemington. And because the clocks have changed and they don't change, or they're different in Australia and so on and so forth, basically Flemington will start in the early hours of Saturday morning. So if you trade the Breeders' Cup on Friday night, you will just dovetail straight in to the Oaks at Flemington, or the first day of the Melbourne Cup meeting. So the Melbourne Cup meeting will take place on Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then Saturday again. So I'll be working nights over the next week. I'll probably be a bit quieter on social media and so on and so forth, simply because I'll be putting a lot of energy into trading the Melbourne Cup meeting. And that, as I've mentioned, the days that it will take place there, but because of the time difference between us and Melbourne, you will find, if you're in the UK, that the Melbourne Cup meeting will start just after midnight, somewhere in between midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, and run through until about 6 o'clock later that morning. So yeah, you have to be a bit of a masochist to do it, but I've enjoyed doing the Melbourne Cup meeting for a large number of years. It was one of the first meetings that I ever tried to crack in Australia, because it's such a big race. It will turn over millions and millions and millions, and it will be at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. If you just want to trade just that race, 4 o'clock Tuesday morning will be the time that you need to catch that. But most of the other races in and around it seem to do particularly well. So this Saturday and next Saturday will be very, very busy days. Thursday isn't so busy, and then of course the Melbourne Cup itself is absolutely massive. But yeah, going back years ago, when I first started trading, I really fancied giving the Melbourne Cup a crack, because I knew it was going to be a massive race. So I'd actually converted half the garage in my old house into like a mini office. So I used to sleep there. I used to go into the office so as not to disturb anybody, take a sleeping bag in and sleep there, and then wake myself up at sort of 3:30, give the Melbourne Cup a go, and then go back to sleep again. But gradually over a number of years, I started trading more and more races on that particular day. Then I started trading the 2 Saturdays, and then I thought, oh, what the hell, I may as well do the whole week. So I'm expecting my totals in the UK to diminish this week as I turn my attention to the Melbourne Cup meeting. But you have to sort of pick and choose your targets, really, because you could theoretically get up at 12 on Saturday, 12 noon, trade the card, go into the evening where they have Dundalk and Wolverhampton, then dovetail on Friday night into the Breeders' Cup, and then as the Breeders' Cup finishes, you get to the Melbourne Cup, and that goes on until 6 in the morning. Then you've got some other racing that takes place a little bit later, and then you've just got a few hours, and then the UK starts again. And then of course when the UK finishes, you're dovetailing into the Breeders' Cup, and then so you can see you really, depending upon how extreme you want to go, you could fail to get some sleep, but probably benefit from trading a large number of markets. It's up to you if how much you want to do of that. But certainly you should take a look at the Melbourne Cup on Tuesday morning at 4, if you can, If not, just keep an eye on social media and I'll keep you updated as to how much these meetings are doing and how much they've turned over and so on and so forth. But certainly for our Antipodean cousins, right around the other side of the world, I'm sure you'll be fully aware of it and be actively trading, but it's definitely a meeting that it's worth turning up to and giving a good go, simply because there'll be so much liquidity within the markets. So I must at some point get out to Australia to see the Melbourne Cup meeting. That's one of the things on the list that I must do. I haven't decided when I'm going to do that, but I will do that at some point. But this year I'll look forward to trading it again.